So today we're going to go over verticals, offer types, and how various offer types and verticals gel with certain traffic sources. So this is kind of the stuff that most experienced affiliate marketers know, like the back of their hand, but when you're new to the industry, is not necessarily told to you straight away, and you kind of have to figure these things out as you go. So let's get straight into it. What is a vertical? What does that even mean? So the term itself is relatively historic, and you can look it up. If you look it up on Wikipedia, this is what you get. So a vertical market is essentially a market in which vendors offer goods and services that are very specific to that industry or trade or profession or some other specific needs of the customers. And it's completely different to a horizontal market in which you basically supply a broad range of goods to a large group of customers. So it's relatively simple, but when you first get into affiliate marketing, the word vertical gets used as jargon, and you just kind of think of it as genre or category, although it does actually have an actual definition which comes from an earlier time. So to give you some examples, something like Amazon or eBay or Newegg or Walmart, you'd kind of consider them as horizontal market providers in the sense that they provide a range of products for a broad range of consumers. And a lot of the retailers who are actually present at these places or actually have products at Walmart will make a ton of stuff. So they might make knives and forks and washing baskets and clear files and A4 printer paper and things. They make a huge range of stuff which broadly just markets to the general average consumer. So they're horizontal market providers. And then you get, say, a company like IKEA, who specializes in and does very well in homewares and basically furniture and various things that you would want to purchase when you are furnishing a new house. So although they deal with lots of products, varying varieties, they're kind of a vertical market provider because of that specific kind of customer and specific need that they address. Toyota is another example. They deal with car stuff. I'm sure they make a lot of other things as well, and they deal with robotics and things, but generally, to the general consumer, when you think of Toyota, you're thinking of buying cars. And Maybelline is another example. Cosmetics and beauty products, and more specifically for women rather than men. So these are all vertical market providers. And then when you get into affiliate marketing specifically, there are quite a lot of different verticals that we talk about. So to give you some examples, we have gaming, financial services, gambling and betting, diet, skincare, fitness or muscle and supplementation. So these are very, very big verticals. Dating is a huge vertical. Software and services, physical and digital products that you may sell online, or physical products that may be shipped out in a drop shipping fashion, or electronic products which may be just digitally redistributed. Business opportunities, or so-called BizOps, the so-called make money online vertical or niche. Forex, so foreign exchange stuff, so things like how to manipulate the stock market, or how to make money off the stock market. And then adult, which is a vertical we won't really dive into much for obvious reasons in the 6-week Affiliate Mastery Challenge. So there's a lot of different verticals around that you can get involved in, and many of them are evergreen, and that year after year there's always something happening in those verticals. There's always hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in those verticals, and no one vertical is better than any other. Now, one of the hardest things that you'll have to deal with when you're starting out is figuring out what vertical to actually get started in, or where to focus. So when you're first starting out, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is to actually focus on a specific vertical and a specific traffic source. So don't try to spread yourself too thin over too many things don't try to test too many things. And on the other hand, some things don't work very well together, and it's sensible to stick to one thing and master it rather than jumping between things. So a lot of people get magic bullet and shiny object syndrome, where they're jumping from one thing to another, searching for, that one thing that works for them or that one thing that they have the highest affinity for. So don't do that. If you look over the last 6 months, if you've already been playing around with affiliate marketing and you find that you've jumped between, say, 5 different traffic sources, or month to month you're changing the way you do things, or the traffic source you focus on, or the vertical that you're most interested in, chances are you've got shiny object syndrome and you're always chasing that thing which is going to work. But if you look at the traffic sources and the verticals you've been testing and other people are making them work, chances are it's not the verticals, it's not the traffic source, but it's you specifically and the way you are approaching things. I'm not going to deny it. There's certain offers, traffic sources and verticals that you'll never be successful in because you just don't have the affinity for that or the mindset for it. So the campaigns you launch, just intrinsically, you kind of impede their chances of success. That's fine. That's going to be the case for everyone. No one person is a master of or is successful in all verticals. That just doesn't happen. But that being the case, you should choose something and stick with it. Better to be, they say it's better to be a master of one than a jack of all trades, although that kind of contradicts what I've been saying earlier about needing to be a jack of all trades in affiliate marketing to get started. But that's more around the technical side of things, like being able to make banners, knowing how landers work, being able to do all the various things that you need to do to launch campaigns while not being an expert at any one thing. That's fine. You need that. But when it comes to verticals and what you focus on, or verticals and traffic sources, it really pays to not be a jack of all trades there. If you were to launch on mobile display and on search and on Facebook and native advertising and content marketing, all within the space of a few months, you can almost guarantee that that splitting of your focus is going to completely destroy your chances of success. And another thing is that certain offer types and verticals don't really align with how certain traffic sources work. So when you're starting out, it's very important that you are kind of directed in the choices that you make. So you need some level of guidance there so that you don't choose a really terrible combination or choose terrible combinations one after the other so that you feel like you're getting the shiny object syndrome and that nothing is working. So that's one of the useful aspects of being a member of the STM forum or a member of this course. The decision you make in terms of what traffic source and vertical to focus on, you can actually get feedback from other people who are more experienced who can say, no, that's a terrible idea, or yes, that is a good idea, or if you like this vertical, you should try this type of traffic because that's probably going to work better for that. Now, that aside, let's move on to offer types. So there are various verticals and there are various types of offers, and there's kind of different. You could say there's a gaming offer, there's a dating offer, there's a financial services offer. That's fine. Those are kind of different verticals. But there's other things, other characteristics of offers that we'll talk about and that are useful to know. So what I mean here is, for example, the type of product or service that people are getting. So are they getting a download? Are they getting an app install? Is it a physical product? Is it a digital product? And so on. So these aren't necessarily verticals. Like physical products is not really a vertical, right? It's more like a category of things. So homewares is a vertical. Car parts might be a vertical, but physical items, that's a very horizontal vertical. So when I talk about types of products and services, I'm talking about these kinds of things. And the other characteristic or property of offers that I like to define is the conversion flow and the back end. So when someone gets sent to this offer, what do they have to do to convert? What action do they have to take to produce some money for you? So the conversion flow, essentially. So offers can have a short or long form lead generation. They can be single opt-in or SOI, where someone just submits an email and clicks OK, and that's it. That's the lead. That's the action that the advertiser wants. Or they could be double opt-in, where there's some verification of like an email subscription afterward, or DOI. You can get pin submits, for example. And pin submits, we've probably all encountered these at some point. But this is where you have some sort of system where you can subscribe to mobile content or do some sort of mobile subscription through your phone by submitting a PIN code or receiving an SMS and submitting that PIN, and so on. There's various types of flow there. But I guess the main thing they have in common is that they all tie back to carrier billing, and that they charge your carrier or your phone plan rather than a credit card directly or anything else. And then you can get rebilling payment models, so systems where you sign up for some $1 trial and then after a while it rebills you, month to month or week to week, or you might have a discount for the first month or have it free, and then after a month it bills you at the full amount. And these are very legitimate payment models, but they kind of get a bit of scrutiny in the industry, specifically because of a certain practices that advertisers like to employ, especially in industries like skincare and dieting products and supplementation and things, where they use something called a negative response tactic, where a lack of a response is considered as a positive response. So a lack of response is kind of like a tacit approval to keep billing. And while this is fine, like when you submit something and you maybe put in your credit card for a $1 trial and you essentially read the fine print, or your actions imply that you have done that, then they have every right to actually carry through this kind of billing. But generally it leads to quite a negative user experience, but we'll go over that a little bit later. Now, in terms of these offers, different offers will align with different traffic sources in different ways. So not all verticals and offer types are appropriate for all traffic sources, and we'll go over that a little bit more now. So not all types of offer or vertical are appropriate for all traffic sources, and this should really come as no surprise. So whenever you're running campaigns, think about these general things like user intent, like what is the user there for, what are they doing, what is their purpose, what do they wish to achieve, what they may be interested in, and their user characteristics. So at the end of the day, on certain traffic sources, certain types of offers and verticals just might not appeal to that user for various reasons. So to give you an example, say I have a gaming offer and it's a 10 gigabyte client download, which isn't really that abnormal. It would be a bit silly to try and advertise that in a place like Burma or Laos, where while the advertiser might accept global traffic and pay out for people from those regions, that 10 gigabytes might take them like a week, a month to even download. So it would really be a bit nonsensical to try and advertise to them. So always be mindful of what your users are actually doing on their traffic source, their characteristics like their geographic location, their connectivity, their devices, all of those kinds of things, to think about whether that offer is fundamentally does it even have a chance of working with that audience? And of course, is it relevant in any way to the audience that you're actually advertising to? Now, on the other side of things, you have the logistics. So things like the price of your advertising versus how much money you make. So you should kind of do sanity checks whenever you're making campaigns. To give you an example, say you have a $1 double opt-in lead generation offer, and it's broad, it appeals to everyone, but for people filling out an offer form and verifying their email, you get paid $1. It would be a bit silly to try and run this on search traffic on Google, for example, where the cost per clicks you would be paying for whatever your targeting is range between 50 cents and $4. So at the minimum, you're paying 50 cents for a click, and you get $1 if someone converts, and you're very unlikely to get a 50% conversion rate. So always be mindful of how much it actually costs to get ads in front of users and how much you can actually get out of it. There are so many different types of traffic sources, and payouts obviously vary a lot as well. But in many cases or many scenarios, there's certain types of offers which just flat out are not going to work on a certain type of traffic, just because of the differences in what you can achieve in terms of commission and how much you are likely to have to pay to get that to happen. So another thing to consider are conversion requirements and what you actually expect from the user. So what does that user actually have to do, and that investment in terms of their time and their energy required to do that, how does that correspond to the way in which they have encountered your ad? So to give you an example, say you have a lead generation offer and it involves 20 fields that you have to fill in a form and you have to submit. Or it requires inputting credit card details to get a $1 trial of something. Now, these are things that people do every day. This is fine. But to get someone to do this, they have to have some sort of intent, or they have to have some goal or some want or desire in terms of something coming out of that. Someone's not going to just land on a page out of nowhere, like in pop-ups or direct navigation traffic, and fill out a 20-form field submit for something. That's just not going to happen because they're not interested in that. Whereas if someone searches for best antivirus software for PC, and they get an ad for Trend Micro or something like that, and they go to that and it says, fill in this form and you can download a 30-day trial, obviously their intent there is much, much higher, so they are far more likely to actually do that. Whereas if you had a mobile display banner that just said best antivirus for PC, someone clicks that and it brings up a 20-field form submit to get some sort of offer. If you haven't sold them on that offer, or you haven't shown them that this is a solution to their problem or something that they want, they're simply not going to do that. Right. Another thing to be aware of is the compliance and regulatory side of things. So for various traffic sources and various publishers, i.e. the sites which have or contain or serve ads, they will have their own objectives and their own things to be mindful of. So to give you an example, most traffic sources have various terms and conditions and terms of service, which and various guidelines for prohibited advertisements and what isn't allowed on certain exchanges and certain publishers. And at the end of the day, the traffic source, it has to comply with what that publisher wants. So the person who owns the website or the app where the ads can be served, ultimately it's what they want that is most important, because there's nothing stopping them from just completely pulling their integration with an ad exchange or with a traffic source. So you have to be mindful of what they want, and then traffic sources have to be mindful of what they want as well. So on your end, the onus is on you to understand or to know what is and isn't allowed on certain traffic sources. So on Facebook, for example, certain verticals and offer types are just completely prohibited. Like they're very clear in their advertising guidelines. No running gambling, no running dating, no running illegal software downloads, these sorts of things like firearms and selling tobacco and liquor. For the most part, all of these are just blanket prohibited. And if you tried to run these, you'd be a bit stupid, because you really failed as a marketer and an advertiser to know the terms of service of the traffic source that you're working with. Now, to pan back to, say, an ad network or a mobile DSP, which may be integrated with many exchanges and subsequently many publishers and app and website owners, certain websites might have regulations or terms where they don't want certain types of ads or various things advertised on their platform. This may be due to brand sensitivity. Say they're a big authoritative site, like it's Coca-Cola, right? So Coca-Cola might have ad space you can buy. It might be extremely expensive, but you can buy it. But they will have very strict approval guidelines for what ads are allowed. For example, they will definitely not want any explicit or adult product-related ads on their site. That's kind of common sense, right? Because that would be that would pose a serious risk of brand damage to them, and they would obviously get all the flack and fallout from that. If someone sees a pornographic ad on a Coca-Cola site, they're not coming after you. They're not coming after the affiliate. All over the media, it's going to be Coca-Cola puts sexual ads on their site, and obviously that's not great for them. So this is why there's always going to be approval at traffic sources where people manually or automatically go through the ads that are submitted and say yes, 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 no, yes, yes, no. And for certain publishers, they may actually allow people to advertise on those publishers exclusively or by a case-by-case basis, and they may have very strict approval guidelines for those ads. To give you another example, a legal site, for example, some website in the financial services industry, for whatever reason, has ads on its site. I have no idea why this would happen, but say it does. For legal reasons, they may not want any other financial services advertised on that site because, we may be ignorant of that, but there may be certain legal repercussions of them having competitor brands or advertisements or trademarks on their site because it might imply some sort of relationship. There's all these kinds of things. So this is just another one of the things that can get in the way, or that you have to be mindful of when you're considering whether something is relevant for a specific traffic source or not. So make sure you review these and always keep these in mind when you're approaching campaigns on various traffic sources or exploring new ones, especially this idea of user intent and relevance to users. So that aside, what is appropriate and what traffic sources do well or appeal well to certain types of offers and verticals. So health, wealth, and entertainment. These are kind of the big three verticals, which I kind of consider as, or can be classed as, life betterment. So health is things like fitness and dieting and self-help and self-improvement, spirituality, all of these sorts of things. Wealth, making money, increasing how much money you have, increasing your social standing, all of these kinds of things. And entertainment, which is just pretty broad. Anything that makes you feel happy or entertained or basically improves your current mood. So these are three massive verticals which cover a huge scope of things. And in general, they just appeal to human nature. These are three fundamental human wants, which most people are interested in. Everyone wants to be healthier. Everyone wants to be slimmer. Everyone wants to have more money and be socially more, renowned. And everyone wants to be happy. So these all focus on increasing the quality of human life. And because these appeal to just broad human nature, you can essentially run them on any traffic source. Any traffic source where there's a human on the other end, then things within the health, wealth, and entertainment verticals, or these meta verticals, appeal to those people. So, however, you still have to be mindful of things like advertising costs versus revenues. So Google search, for example, it might be hard to run an entertainment offer on that where it's a 50-cent payout for some sign up for something, whereas something related to skincare, which has a $100 payout, would obviously be a lot more sensible, especially if you were very, very targeted towards certain intent of users. Now, that aside, certain traffic sources do make it harder to run things within these verticals for a number of reasons. And a lot of it comes down to user experience. So if you take things like diet offers and skincare offers and fitness offers, they're generally a lot harder than you'd expect to run on Facebook. And one of the reasons for these is that marketers can get a bit carried away and a bit naughty with the way that they advertise things and can be non-compliant. And these can, the main problem for Facebook at least is that there's a negative user experience that comes out of that. So someone sees a dieting ad about how someone lost 23 pounds in 6 weeks, and then they go through and look at that site, and they find out this is relatively misleading, or they buy the product and it's not as good as they thought. In general, a lot of these types of advertisements and offers that are promoted do lead to a bit of a negative user experience. This is only for some offers. There are heaps and tons of legitimate diet, skincare, fitness offers, that I won't deny. But there is a tendency for a negative user experience to come from these. So Facebook puts a lot of scrutiny on these kinds of offers, and there's a lot of hoops that people have to jump through to actually get something through. And then Facebook at any point in time will just pull people's advertisements in these verticals or ban their accounts if they don't like the way users are reacting to these. And at the other end of things, with the way in which things are advertised, the testimonials, the claims, and how things may be misleading, and the fine print and things like that, that's kind of an industry where regulatory bodies like the FTC really clamp down, and so it can be hard to do things in those industries in general, especially if you are not kind of adhering to the letter of the law in terms of being very transparent, honest, and non-misleading with customers. And traffic sources, which really care about the user experience, they kind of have a similar mentality with that. So for Google search as well, You can really run offers within these verticals, but there may be more hoops than normal to actually jump through in terms of the web pages and the ad types that you use and getting these approved. And Google may go to great lengths to make sure that you, the advertiser, are a legitimate representative of the company and that you're not just like an affiliate trying to push traffic towards something to test it. That may be the case, but you have to be very careful to make that not look like the case. Right, moving on, games. Games are a great example of yet another global vertical. So games fall within the entertainment vertical, and the gaming vertical itself and the amount of money spent on advertisement there is huge. And most games are relatively credible and can be compliantly run on traffic sources, most traffic sources, without any issues whatsoever. Most games are just fine in that respect. And now the gaming market has kind of shifted over the last five years or so. There's a huge number of mobile games now. And if you look at things like first-person shooter games and RTS or real-time strategy games, or one of the bigger genres now is the multiplayer online battle arena or MOBA type games like League of Legends and Dota. These games, at least originally, tended to have a very male-predominant audience. Now that's still the case, just not so much. But because of the advent of really intense mobile gaming, things like Candy Crush are now very, very prominent within the gaming industry, and you can't separate these two. There's so many mobile games being advertised, and the market is actually dominated, I believe, now by female gamers, something like 55-60%. So it's a bit different in that respect. Now, to give you some actual figures here to make you realize the scale of things, Clash of Clans, for example, is one of the most successful games ever. I believe it is probably the highest grossing mobile gaming app in the world at the moment, probably still is. I believe that the game itself makes between 5 and 8 million US dollars in revenue per day. That's per day. That's almost $500 million per quarter in revenue from that game. And to give you a comparison, Facebook, which is a giant by any measure, makes something like circa $2 billion in advertising revenue per quarter. So there's a single gaming app making a quarter as much revenue as Facebook ads. And I believe they spend something of the order of $1 million per day in advertising to actually acquire new customers or new users. So that is absolutely extreme. I don't know anyone who has ever spent $1 million per day on marketing anything or everything collectively together. That's a huge amount. That's more that's more than many traffic sources can offer. There are many, many traffic sources out there that could not actually let you spend $1 million per day on advertising. So that's absolutely huge. So the gaming vertical is it's gigantic. And again, the key takeaway here is that you can run gaming on almost any traffic source, but if you want to run gaming well, especially considering how competitive that industry is now, you probably want to go to traffic sources where there's some benefit in terms of targeting or way of engaging users. So Facebook, for example, you can target users very specifically based on the things they like and their characteristics and their demographics, which may align with the type of game that you're trying to advertise. Google search is probably not the greatest place to try and get new users because not that many people probably search for best current Android game, or if they find your product based on brand keywords and things, they probably already know about your product and you don't need to pay to actually get them to come and look at that. And with native mobile ad networks, there's a lot of different engaging ad unit types which can be used there. So native mobile advertising networks are another traffic source which is ideal for advertising games, at least mobile games. Now, another type of offer you'll encounter is high-ticket products. So this, I guess, isn't really a type of offer. This is kind of like just a category which things will fall into when they are relatively expensive. So things like retail and physical products, financial services, things where there is some commensurate large user investment in terms of money, whether it's buying something with a credit card, whether it's committing to some sort of trial or some sort of contract, generally stuff that just requires a certain amount of money. So say things which cost users over $50 to actually get involved in. Now, in these cases, search is arguably the best traffic source due to the potentially very high contextual user intent. So the users, because of the keyword targeting and the way in which you can serve ads to users on search, you have a much higher chance of getting someone on the receiving end who has a high intent and high likelihood to actually want to purchase or invest in this high-ticket product. On the other hand, on Facebook, for example, and on other traffic sources where, for whatever reason, you can target users who have shown a previous high purchase intent or have been browsing shopping sites or have hit the checkouts of various shopping sites, those users contextually might be relatively high intent as well. Now, email is another traffic source where high-ticket products can do very well, and this is generally going to be because of both the intent of the user by way of them being on a very specific list or in a specific interest group, but also because of user trust. So if you have a very well looked after list, which has kind of been massaged and over time so that these people trust you, that element of user trust is going to increase the likelihood of them committing to some sort of high-ticket product which you have kind of vouched for or suggested they buy, and you have tried to sell to them. So there's the saying in the industry that the money is in the list. When you have a very well-maintained list, this can be exceptionally true. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is that there is nothing bad about a high price or payout for an offer. It's a common misconception that people should start with low payout offers because high payout offers are worse or just more difficult. This isn't necessarily the case. The thing is, if something has a high payout or price, then generally the amount of value that person provides to the advertiser is higher, hence why they are willing to pay more. And on the other hand, there is a larger amount of investment required from their user, either in terms of time or commitment or intent or purchasing something or information they have to provide to the advertiser. But that doesn't mean that all things being taken into consideration, a high payout offer is going to be harder to make money on. It just means that you need to be a bit more careful or think more about your actual budgeting and testing strategy, because it's likely to take a bit more money to actually test things thoroughly, all else being equal. But that doesn't necessarily mean high-ticket products are bad at all, or that people who are relatively new to the industry can't do very well with them. But because of the amount of investment generally taken in terms of budgeting and testing, we won't focus on them for the 6-week Affiliate Mastery Challenge, but you are very welcome to actually test these things later on. So, downloads. When I say downloads, I don't mean things like games and gaming clients. I mean these offers which I kind of rank as pretty terrible, if I'm honest. I'm not a big fan of them. The offers where you have to click to download some app. So you come to some landing page and it's like, download Super Mario, and you click on it and it tries to download some exe file. And you just know that this is going to be some installer which is packaged with adware and potentially malware. These types of offers generally provide a negative user experience, either immediately or down the track. And they're a bit frowned upon by traffic sources that care more about user experience, like Facebook and Google and so on. So you're going to have a hard time running them on those. And many other sources as well completely dislike automated downloads. So if you go to the landing page of the offer and it tries to automatically initiate a download, you can be almost guaranteed that's non-compliant with 99% of traffic sources. And typically these are found on lower quality types of traffic like pops and redirects and cheap media buys and display traffic. And again, there's the scrutiny there. Mobile content offers and pin submits. So pin submits are huge. They're kind of a vertical or a type of offer that has been exploding over recent years. And at the same time, regulations have been getting more and more strict at the country level in terms of country bodies like the FTC and that, and regulatory bodies that care about communications industries and telecommunications and things like that, they've become much more strict in terms of what you can and cannot do with carrier billing. So these are the types of offers where you submit some sort of PIN or some sort of code, or you do some sort of action which then funnels you into generally a subscription service which charges per week, sometimes even per day, and sends you things like jokes and mobile content and game downloads and so on. Some of these are relatively legitimate in terms of the value that they offer, but many of them really do not. And there's this kind of thing, this ethical dilemma that you get where the user has gone into this where they have shown that they've given sort of tacit indication that they have agreed to the terms of service, but they probably haven't really read them, and they don't realize they're going to be charged $2 per text or something like that. So while they're not necessarily bad or misleading, they kind of play on user ignorance. And for that reason, I don't really like them, but they do very well, and a lot of marketers love them because they can make a lot of money. So again, they're not really that deceptive, they are deceptive, but they provided a negative user experience. And for this reason, higher level traffic sources like Facebook and Google and so on, and native ad networks that care more about user experience, they're much less likely to let you run them. But you can run them on most mobile display sources. You can run them on mobile pops and redirects, where you can it's like the wildlands. You can run almost anything. But the point is to know what they are, what they do, how they work, and what kind of traffic sources do or don't like them. And there's so many different types of offers and so many different ways you can market them that regulations and compliance aside, they can probably be run almost anywhere. Now, as for business-orientated products and services, there's certain traffic sources which are very clearly much better targets for this type of advertising. LinkedIn is a great example. So if you're trying to do any business-to-business marketing, LinkedIn is a great place to go because most people who are on LinkedIn are there for business purposes, or that's the mindset that they're in when they're there, right? When you're on LinkedIn, you're not looking for entertainment or interesting videos to watch. You're thinking about business or your professional career, or you're trying to network with new people, or you're trying to find people from certain companies because you want to work with them and you want to touch base. So it's a clear place to have business-to-business advertising. And you can go get involved with LinkedIn ads relatively easily. I believe they just have a self-serve channel or a self-serve system that you can use. Facebook's another example of a place you could go. So people who are on Facebook aren't, they're not necessarily looking to do anything related to business. Most people are on Facebook for personal and entertainment reasons. And a lot of people, when they're on Facebook, they will disconnect from their business and professional mindset. But that doesn't mean you can't be successful with business-to-business marketing there or selling of business-orientated products. The thing is, on Facebook, you have very, very exceptional and diverse targeting for people based on their interests, their user characteristics, their demographics, as well as things like job titles and job industries and positions. Some of these targeting parameters aren't that accurate. They're not going to be 100% accurate, but they do give you the ability to narrow down to an audience which is more likely to be your target customer. So don't discount Facebook for business-to-business advertising. Just remember that people don't really go on Facebook with a business mindset, even though they might be currently at work and Skyping off onto Facebook. I'm sure a lot of people do that. Google search is another obvious one. If you're a business and you're looking for contractors in New Orleans who can supply jib board or piping or something like that, your first resort is probably going to be to go to Google and write piping suppliers in New Orleans. So that's a very obvious channel for contextually targeting people with things that they are looking for that your business can provide a solution to. Email is another good one. So if you have people on a list who are interested in a certain type of business or product, then obviously they a great customer base to advertise to, or a very nice potential pool of people who may be interested. So people who have large newsletters and email followings in financial sectors like stock trading or in real estate investment, all these various all these various segments and industries. So someone who's on a real estate investment list where every month or week they get some emails about the top real estate investments in, some country or in some city, or news about certain investments and things like that, then they are a very, very potentially useful customer base to advertise real estate related products to, either yourself or in partnership or joint venture with someone else, or using something like solo ads. And if you have a very responsive list and there's that element of user trust there and authority from you in terms of the information you provide, then there's the user intent, and then there's the trust and the social proof that you provide. So I believe there's companies like Agora Publishing, I believe, who do financial newsletters and do millions and millions in sales and revenue per month and per week just through email for these business-to-business services. So what works with what aside, how do you actually move forward with picking an offer and pursuing something? So you'll likely be a member of multiple networks, and if you log into these networks, you'll just see this myriad or plethora of offers to look at. And they'll be in various categories, they'll be for various countries, and you'll have very little guidance in terms of what is worth looking into, other than sometimes a report on the earnings per click or the average EPCs of different offers network-wide. So if you go through this list, there'll be various offers. Rarely are they global. In cases where an offer allows traffic from all over the world, typically the payout is very low, but you will see offers having certain countries being allowed. And when we say allowed, it kind of means that the advertiser is willing to actually pay for traffic from that region. If you send traffic from another region, A, they might not pay for it, or they won't pay for it, they're not obliged to in any way. And B, the affiliate network may actually redirect people to some other page instead. Sometimes you'll see offers allowing traffic from a certain geographic region, or say from countries where the same language is spoken. So United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand is kind of a common grouping of the tier 1 English-speaking countries. You might see other instances where there's a block of neighbouring countries which all speak or have a high prevalence of people who speak the same language. For example, France, Belgium, or Germany, Austria, Switzerland is another common one. Or you might see ones like just Scandinavia, like send a Scandinavian traffic. And in this case, they might accept traffic from Finland, Sweden, Norway, perhaps from the Netherlands as well. And typically in this case, the offer would be in English, because English is widely spoken in these regions, especially in the Netherlands. So that aside, how do you actually go forward with picking an offer and choosing something to test? So today what I'm going to do is I'll just mention some of the basics about how to do this. So mainly for offers and campaigns outside of the 6-week challenge, since we have the prescribed campaigns and offers that we'll be using in this challenge. Later in the course, I'm actually going to go over a more detailed way to do offer research and to pick offers to test, and I'll just stick to the basics today. So I think the first thing you should do, and arguably the most important thing you can do, is focus, and to pick something to focus on. And by this, I kind of mean the vertical. You can be vertical agnostic, but you should focus on something, whether it's on the traffic source side or the vertical side. Try to cut out as much clutter as possible. So how do you pick a vertical? Firstly, what vertical most interests you? If you have a vertical which interests you more than other verticals, then you're likely to enjoy actually advertising in that vertical more than in others. So are there any verticals where you have some passion for products or services and would actually enjoy selling them? Especially with high-ticket products. If you personally actually really enjoy or believe what you're selling, then it's much easier to write advertisements and to write ad copy for those products or services. This is probably not so applicable when you're starting out, because you're probably not going to be writing large sales pages. But in any case, if you really like something, then it is potentially a good vertical to explore. But there is a caveat here. That passion for something, or how much you like a certain vertical, and your experience, your skills, and your knowledge in that vertical they might not necessarily translate to you having profitable campaigns in that vertical. Please do not make that mistake. I love games, for example, but that doesn't mean I can just take any gaming offer and make it work. If you love golf, that doesn't mean you can take a ClickBank offer about golfing, and because you like golf, you can just make it work with hard work and effort. That's not the case, so don't get tunnel vision there. Always remember that while having a passion in something is great in terms of guiding you towards something, it shouldn't be an ultimatum. Because you like this, this is the vertical you should work in. Don't get trapped into that mindset. So, on the other side of the coin, you can pick verticals that you don't want to be involved in, that you can completely get out of your list of choices. So, one thing to note here is that most verticals aren't inherently shady or misleading. So, don't eliminate, download offers or eliminate adult traffic, for example, because you believe that vertical itself is shady. That's never generally the case. There's always offers within verticals that are more or less misleading and shady and or credible or run by credible advertisers. But affiliate marketing is kind of what you make it. So everyone draws a line somewhere in terms of what they do and don't want to promote, but that is really something you should do at the vertical level. However, you can of course eliminate verticals because you're just not really that interested in running them. So with that out of the way, let's get on to a general process for picking offers. And I'll divide this into steps. First step, number one, don't make assumptions. This is very important. In affiliate marketing, very, very often your intuition in terms of what will and won't work is wrong. So don't assume that some offers are going to be better or worse than others unless you have data that actually says that. Don't assume that certain countries are going to perform better than others unless you have some data or some knowledge which makes that much more likely to be true. In affiliate marketing and in performance marketing and direct response marketing, it's the data which is most reliable. And so this comes to our second step. Step two, you should ask your affiliate manager what is actually working. So this is getting down to the getting data element of things. So ask your network for a list of top performing or the top converting offers on that network. And you can probably ask for these in a specific vertical or verticals as well. And then when you do that, you should ideally get a spreadsheet from your affiliate manager. And using that spreadsheet, you can rearrange and manipulate things and filter things to display them in the way that you want to identify various top offers to pursue. After that, you can ask your affiliate manager for advice. So maybe ask them to shortlist certain offers that fit the criteria that you're after. Ask them what offers have consistently performed well over the network or for multiple affiliates. And ask them if they have any extra data that they can share with you about how these offers are working. So the key point here is to actually get some data about these offers. And another thing I should mention is a lack of data isn't really evidence of anything. So an offer may be extremely awesome and do well for the campaigns you run, but no one has sent it traffic yet. It's been there for 2 weeks. No one's been interested in it. That doesn't mean it's a bad offer. And the final thing you can do here is talk to other affiliates. So other affiliate marketers are unlikely to tell you, specifically what's working. They're not going to map out their campaign on paper for you that's profitable and show you exactly how you can copy that and basically steal it from them and directly cut into their margins. It would be really nice if they'll do that, but it's very unlikely if they're an ambitious marketer. But what you can do is say, have you tried these offers and what do you think about them? And they may say, I'm running this offer and I'm running profitable campaigns on mobile display. Or they may say, X offer is great, or Y offer I tested and it's terrible. And if they're an experienced marketer and they say something like, I tested that offer on Pop's mobile display and Facebook, it just doesn't convert, then that's a pretty good indication that that offer is probably not worth pursuing, at least at the entry level. And of course, drill them when they say this kind of thing, like ask them for more information, like, well, why do you believe this? Or how much testing did you do here? Don't just take anything on faith, because Not everyone is great at testing things. So it might just be that the campaigns didn't work well because of their specific approach or experience with that vertical. And again, data is like the currency of affiliate marketing. So the more information you can get out of people, the better. Step 3, analyze the offer. So this is something I'll get into a lot more detail about later in the course. But there's some obvious things to do, right? Firstly, load the landing page. Have a look at the actual offer. What does the landing or the sales page look like? And how does it actually, what kind of impression do you get from it? Now, you may need a VPN, a VPN client or service, virtual private network, or a mobile device to actually look at these landers properly. We will explore that later. And what you can do is take some of the similar and top performing offers within a certain vertical, for example, and you can look at them all and compare them. What do the top performing offers do similarly? Is there anything between them that look similar? Do they all do things in a similar way, which would suggest that that type of activity or behavior is beneficial to having the offer convert well? Basically, learn what you can from comparing these things. Then what you can do is do some spying. So do you see this offer running in the wild? If you go to various traffic sources and you pretend to be a user from whatever countries that offer is being advertised in, do you see ads for that offer? If you look at those ads, click on them and move through that entire process, what do you see? And to follow on from that, you can use competitive intelligence tools like AdBeat and What Runs Where, Box of Ads, Ad Clarity Mode. There's many competitive intelligence tools out there. Now, moving on from that, I think you should do a little bit of research about the landing page domain and about the offer itself, but only for a few minutes. So things like looking the offer up on SimilarWeb or Alexa, Quantcast Compete, these various sites, just to get an idea of how old that domain is, if there's any information on traffic and demographics and referrals. So if I'm honest, offer research can be a very, very hard process, especially with new offers hosted on domains that are relatively new and produced ad hoc or spawned just for advertising. So there's limited use you can get from certain competitive intelligence tools. But what is important is to just have a process, like a basic process that you can speed through, where you use various tools to quickly look up those offer landers and checking the landers yourself, going through the flow of things, doing some basic spying to get a feel for how those offers are being promoted, how credible they may be, how widespread they are, and so on. But I think it's more important to actually leverage your personal networking, like your affiliate manager and other affiliates, to filter out the stuff that isn't really worth pursuing. And over time, you'll get much, much better at dissecting offers and being able to look at something and know that, nope, that's not worth my time. That's a terrible offer. That looks worth investigating more. And again, we'll go through this more in week 4, so we can run through a process together, which is a lot more detailed. But anyway, moving from that, once you've actually looked through some of these offers and you have the spreadsheet, you should do this research and build a short list of candidates that you can explore more. Then once you have this short list, what you want to do is think about various other things to actually cull this list a little bit more. So go back to your network and look at the terms and conditions or the regulations or the notes for these offers, and look at things like, is creative approval required? Is direct linking allowed? Are there any prohibited traffic sources, certain carriers, suppression lists and disallowed sites? So disallowed sites where you're not allowed to place banners. Suppression lists is for email, and these are emails that have already opted out of receiving emails from those advertisers. So you're legally not allowed to send emails to those people again, and if you do, you can actually get the advertiser in quite a lot of trouble. So make sure you always are mindful of those. But basically go through and see if there's anything in the terms and conditions for these offers that would immediately make it ineligible for you running it on the traffic sources or in the approaches that you actually want to run. Now, if you are focusing on a specific traffic source, like Facebook, for example, then it's very important to do this, because quite a lot of offers will say, no social traffic, or no Facebook, or no Google search, or no bidding on brand keywords and stuff like that. The next thing you can do is go to multiple networks and see if this offer is actually available on many networks. Now, one extremely useful or advised thing to do is to split test offers between networks. This isn't ideal for cash flow and probably makes your life a little bit harder in terms of tracking statistics and things, but this can allow you to eliminate offers that, for whatever reason, perform poorly on one network and don't perform very well on, and actually perform well on another. So it's very important to actually split test here. And in terms of finding these, what you can do is go to offer aggregators like OfferVault and ODigger and OfferBuzz and join these, look for your offer and see if it's there and see if other networks have it. You can join these networks just to run that offer. That's fine. I don't think you should ever feel some obligation to run X amount of revenue with an affiliate network because you're a member. Conversely, they can, kick you out if they want, if you're a really low revenue generating user. For whatever reason, they want to have a nice pristine user base of affiliates, that's fine. But you can always just join an affiliate network to get access to a certain offer. If I'm honest, you can probably put in your interview process for joining affiliate networks that, I am so-and-so, I do this much volume, I'm joining your network specifically because I want this one offer. If you still have it, please get in touch. You can kind of be that frank about things. But as a newbie, that may not work so well. Now, anyway, moving on from that, other things you can look at. So with these offer aggregators, for example, you'll see readily if the offer is very, very, very widespread. And if it is widespread, is the payout volatile? Does it range between 50 cents and $7? And if it is, the question you should ask is why. So why would the offer be paying out 50 cents per lead here and $7 here? Is it because on one side the payout is for a single opt-in, and on the other side it's for some much deeper conversion point where the user has done some action which is of much more value to the advertiser? Is it cost per sale? And so on. And in each of these networks, you can ask affiliate managers about the performance of these offers. So different affiliate managers are going to tell a different story, either because their data is different or because they personally are a little different in terms of how they approach things. And again, there's many factors which will affect these payout changes. So the conversion flows like SOI versus DOI, the relationships of the network with the advertiser, and how strong that relationship is, the quality of the traffic the network has sent before. If a network is, from the advertiser's perspective, that network often sends relatively low quality traffic, then the advertiser itself might not be willing to commit to such a high payout for each lead because they know that the quality is often lower and vice versa. And you may actually get brokering involved as well, where a network doesn't have a direct relationship with the advertiser, but they actually have a relationship with another network, which then has a relationship with the advertiser, and they essentially broker. And this is terrible for you because it means there's more redirects and sort of hoops in terms of the technical back end and users getting to the offer. And secondly, it means there's another middleman there who's shaving some percentage of the revenue off. So it's a completely disadvantageous to you. There's literally no advantage to brokering to you, the marketer, but we can check to see if things are brokered relatively easy. Now, when you do choose an offer, make sure that you still split test. So even if you choose an offer from a certain network and that network has the highest payout and you know it has direct and you like the affiliate manager the most and their data shows the EPCs are highest from that offer, you should still split test between networks if possible. Like I've said before, don't assume, always get data. So if you have 3 or 4 networks which all have this offer and the payout ranges between $3.50 and $7, you should still split test it. Why? 1, it's prudent. 2, it aligns with our mentality of not assuming things. And 3, it'll be relatively easy to find out which network is actually giving you the higher revenues or the high earnings per click or revenues per click, because that is what your data is going to show you. If it is the one that you thought it was going to be, that's great. If it's multiple ones, then you can basically split test between them, and now you're building leverage with multiple networks. Or you can go to one so that your cash flow is, you're in a better situation there. And if that top network is actually doing slightly worse than another network, you can tell them this and you can say this is doing worse, and they can try and find out why. Or if you've got two networks which are giving you the same revenues per user, you can tell this frankly to your network. I'm split testing two networks. You're giving me a payout of this, and other network is giving me a payout of this. They're converting higher, so my earnings per click are actually slightly higher with that network. Can you increase the payout to match that, or find out why the conversion rate may be lower? And these sorts of things in the end will lead to you making more money because you get some sort of improvement in terms of your commissions. So that split testing is great there because it gives you ammunition to use with affiliate networks to actually improve situations on your side. Now, in the end, this is all about building a process and a system, and something which you can go through naturally almost every time that you actually look at offers and start thinking about campaigns. It's kind of a system which you'll drill into your mind so that it becomes very easy because you naturally do it by habit. So you're always going to do your due diligence with offers every single time. Don't assume that something is going to work or it's not going to work without doing this due diligence. The only exception, I guess, is when you have a very, very good relationship with a network or an affiliate manager and they say this offer is doing great and it's legit, and you trust them enough to just throw that straight into a campaign you've already got going to test it. As part of that process, don't make assumptions, always test things. Don't place your faith in one offer or one affiliate manager, one network, one approach, one way of doing things. Because in the end, this is basically like putting all of your eggs in one basket. And putting all your eggs in one basket isn't it's not necessarily the worst thing if you control the basket and you have control over the risk associated with having all the eggs in that basket. But in these cases, you don't. So don't put all of those eggs in that basket that you don't control. And you can find out certain things later in the process that, if you do find things later in your process that would have removed things from your list of eligible offers much earlier. Say, for example, you find when you go through the offer terms and conditions, it says it's not allowed Facebook, for example, and then you realize that you've already checked that domain again in some competitive intelligence tool, you've already done some research there and invested some time, and then later on have found, I can't even run this, what a waste of time. Move those critical things to earlier in your process so that it becomes as strategic and time efficient as possible, because this will save you a lot of time in the future. Because you will spend a lot of time actually doing offer research to make sure that when you commit money and creative time to making ads and landers and launching campaigns into an offer, you know that that offer is worth pursuing. So this process really has to be high quality and has to come before you actually waste your important time and money on campaigns. Now, that's all I wanted to talk about today. So to finish off the day, there'll be various resources that are attached to the submodule. So there'll be a checklist for a process in terms of picking offers. Again, this will be a basic approach, a basic checklist, because we will go over this in more detail later in the course. And what you can do is you can build and customize your own here, move things around. There'll be a list of traffic and offer types and appropriate traffic sources. So a matrix there of how things sort of match up and gel together. And then, of course, there'll be tasks like with every day. And one of the things I suggest for today is to actually go to one of your affiliate managers or multiple ones, ask for a list of top performing offers, and actually try playing around with this process. Actually do some research, check things on Odigger and Offer Vault, and do some spying in the wild. Actually test this process a little bit and see how you go.